Not gonna lie, yeah, I'm after tall figures. I don't even wanna be involved with you the way I am because I want it all.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. In the midst of everybody deep in their feelings about the Raw is Triple X show not having that much in the way of women, NXT decided to double down and put women all up and through this joint. This is a 60 to 70% women's show. And you know what? It's not bad because you get to see how some of the NXT talent is coming along. And sometimes they're actually pretty good. But before we get into NXT, we got to talk about Mandy Rose talking to the New York Post. And you know what? I didn't bother to read this because at the same time I was like, I don't know if I want to even talk about it. But I decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. Screw it. Let's do it. So, Mandy says, quote, "For me to lose the title on such a whim on a random Tuesday night with zero storytelling and zero promotion leading up to the match was a shocker. I was very caught off guard." So this is a good point. I think we all were caught off guard because it literally came out of nowhere. It was not cool. I can tell you that much. I think that was my biggest complaint. Look, we knew that Roxanne was the one. We knew she was the one. But to give her the title on a random Tuesday without really putting some emphasis behind it seemed very weird. The article continues. It says, Rose says she had been expecting the title match to take place sometime in January. On December 13th, when she thought she was taping a promo, she was told the match was taking place with, quote, no notice. Such a move, quote, generally doesn't happen in our business, she said. Well, yeah. It happens. It just doesn't happen that often. Those kind of knee-jerk reactions usually happen for a reason. The thing continues, says, the next day the WWE released her from her gig, Rose said, claiming she breached her contract for having a subscription-based fan time account where she posted sexy, sometimes explicit photos and videos for a fee. The firing occurred days after risque content she had shared with fan time subscribers started circulating online, including screen grabs from videos Rose had posted swimming nude, as well as more explicit pictures of her in the shower with her fiance. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that, Mandy. Maybe you should not do skinny dipping videos on your fan time page where you're, I don't know, trying to attract a certain audience to NXT. I mean, it seems really weird to me, but she defended herself by saying, quote, I wasn't told about racy images, Rose said, referring to the reasons she was given for being let go. Quote, I wasn't told about anything else. I was told about the subscription-based platform. So, this will be the third-party situation. Again, Zelina Vega was fired for having an OnlyFans account. What was this, in 2020? So it's consistent with the firing of Zelina Vega that the moment they find out that you have some kind of third-party deal that utilizes your name, image, and likeness, they consider that to be their property for the duration of your contract. So it's crazy that we're getting into, this whole thing now with, not to get into it too much, but the Steven Crowder and Daily Wire thing about people wanting to protect their name, image, and likeness, which, they should. But when you sign big contracts, you do sign over your name, image, and likeness for the duration of the term. And this is just general contract law. Why would somebody pay you if you can then go and subvert the contract? Part of the reason why they're paying you is so that they can monetize your name, image, and likeness. That's one of the reasons why they're paying you. If you can subvert that by getting paid somewhere else, then why did you sign over your name, image, and likeness to another promotion? That doesn't make sense, right? So that's essentially what's happening here. They give some backstory into Mandy Rose's career about her coming up through Tough Enough, which is all very true. And I really appreciated that aspect of it. Mandy Rose is a WWE original. She came up through Tough Enough, and for years people said she shouldn't have been on the roster. They don't care about her. They shouldn't care about her. WWE should have fired her a long time ago. all kinds of things, you know. Mandy Rose said, quote, of course I was disappointed, but the emotions really set in after the match. The post says, when the news broke, hashtags like justice for Mandy Rose, hashtag rehire Mandy Rose started trending on wrestling social media. On his podcast, Wrestling with Freddie Prinze Jr. called, quote, the first fumbled WWE executive Triple H has had. Mandy Rose says, how are you, oh no, it's a fan tweet. It says, how are you going to fire a woman who carried the entire division for over a year? Mandy Rose deserves better for working so hard. Well, that's true. Medusa, Deborah Michelli, who's 58. Jesus, I thought she was older than that. She looks older than that. She said, quote, guys get warnings in this business and they're still employed there, which is unfortunate. Saying that Mandy Rose didn't get a warning at all. So Mandy Rose continues saying, what's the definition of racy? The photo of me with 2 titles, I was completely naked underneath. That's considered a racy photo, right? Yes, it is racy. But nobody can see your nipples or your vagine under these championships. They were strategically placed. As she said on television, it was implied nudity. We don't even know that she was naked underneath until she said something. She could have been wearing a bikini. We wouldn't have known. But when you're skinny dipping, we know you ain't wearing no clothes. We can see it. You know, when you are pulling your nipples out, we can see that. It's a little bit different. And then this stuff is being shared on social media and stuff like that, which is not her fault. It's not her fault people are stealing her stuff. But it is what it is. They mentioned Zelina Vega here, so it was November 2020 when she launched an OnlyFans account that didn't include any racy content because Vega was just doing cosplay. She was doing a cosplay OnlyFans, and she was brought back a couple of months later. So everybody's hoping sort of Mandy Rose is going to, same thing is going to happen for her. The post continues, but not everyone has sympathy for Rose, who earned her following via WWE's massive media platform. Dave Meltzer said she had the subscription service and it got popular and lucrative. She went further and further, and the feeling was that she way crossed the line. Way crossed the line. Nothing specific at all. Booker T says the bigger Rose's star would have risen in WWE, the more she would have been able to demand going forward in life. Out of sight, out of mind, he said. Being on TV is so important to being relevant these days. They say we don't need TV, we can do our own thing. Of course you can, but your star is not going to be shine as bright. Which is, it's a good point to make. Booker T is not wrong. We also know that this whole fan time thing, I don't know if they're going to say it here. They probably should say it, is usually short term. You hear about the massive success that it is up front, but then a couple of months later, you don't hear about it that much anymore. And because as people start to taper off, some people come in, some people start to taper off. But here's the continuing of the article. Rose said if she was given a proper warning, she may have considered taking down her fan time account. But so far, she has no regrets. She told the Post that since her WWE release, she's earned more than $1 million on fan time, where she upped her subscription price from $25 to $40. Mandy Rose said, quote, I am grateful and very humbled with everything I've done and made at the WWE. But in today's day and age, there are so many other avenues and so many other marketing opportunities. It's like, why can't I do both? She said, at the end of the day, I'm only watching out for myself and my career. Everyone is replaceable in our business. It's true. This is a fact. I mean, that last line is not untrue at all. Everybody is replaceable in the business, Mandy Rose included. So she's looking out for herself, which is that doesn't make you my enemy. I like that idea. The concept of what Mandy Rose is saying here, I want to be able to take this back a little bit because I believe Lana said something similar that is very limiting due to the marketing opportunities that you could have using some of these third-party platforms. But this is a chicken and the egg sort of situation, right? Like Mandy Rose is hot, but there's a lot of hot chicks out there. What really the women in the wrestling space, they carve out a nice little chunk of fan time or OnlyFans because they have a captured audience. It's like the what was the young lady? I think her name was Jerry Ryan. She played Seven of Nine in the Star Trek universe. She was a bombshell. I mean, she's tremendous. Most average dudes wouldn't know her from a can of paint. But if you talk to anybody that's in the Star Trek fandom, they know how hot she was in them tight suits. Oh my goodness, if she'd have had an OnlyFans, whenever Voyager was launched, during the year she was on it, she'd have made a goddamn killing on that joint. Because every nerd that ever watched an episode of Star Trek Voyager had seen Seven of Nine would have thought, oh my god. It's the same thing here. The reason why Mandy Rose is so successful on Fan Time is because she has a cornered market, which is wrestling fans. It was the same reason Toni Storm was so successful. It was not just random beautiful girls. And they're still beautiful chicks, even if they weren't in wrestling. They're still beautiful women. But it really helps when you're, in a cornered market. But the moment you kind of get out of that market, and other people kind of come along, you kind of have that's why I say, these kind of things kind of taper off. So I do believe Mandy Rose will come back. I think eventually she's going to plateau in terms of success on the Fan Time thing. And she may even start to decline a little bit. And just because she made $1 million, that's gross. We don't know how much. I think Fan Time takes 15%. Or they may take 30% or something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure how much these people take. But they're going to take their cut. And then she's also going to have to pay income taxes. So, do you have to pay income tax? I think she lives in Florida. I don't think Florida has an income tax. Let me think about that. Assuming she has to pay some kind of income tax, she's not going to get anywhere near $1 million at that point. If she doesn't have to pay income tax, then, she gets $800,000, $700,000. That's still not bad. For not having to take bumps, that's not bad at all. But at least she has a positive view about things, which keeps me positive about it. Because she's saying, why can't I have, my cake and eat it too? Why can't I have it both ways? And in some ways that's selfish, but it's also a sort of progressive mindset. It's not like my way or the highway or, screw them, they fired me. It is let's see if we can make a deal. It's a negotiable position. If somebody can make an argument why she can't do both, then we will understand why she can't do both. But the idea that she can't make any money on the outside is false. There are other women who are doing it. I said before, I think when she first got fired, that Lacey Evans was doing a calendar. She's been putting together a calendar. She's going to do it, I think, under the name Lacey Evans. Usually they have to pay WWE a cut to do that, but she's doing it. She's creating her own calendar and she's making her own money. It's just been the Achilles heel of WWE for the last 2 or 3 years of how they choose to deal with these third-party platforms, these OnlyFans accounts, these Fan Time accounts, these cameos, the YouTube channel, different things like that. And there's different carve-outs for everything. And it's interesting, but at the same time, it is what it is. There are wrestlers who have side businesses. Mandy is one of them. She had a donut business with Sonya Deville for a long time. There was the YouTube channel for Asuka or Natalya Neidhart, where she does stuff with her sister. And that stuff's pretty racy too, by the way. I think Liv Morgan also has a YouTube account. Pretty much a lot of the women have YouTube accounts. Some of the guys do music. I know Montez Ford, he does music. R-Truth does music. So there's those kind of third-party things that WWE doesn't really support, but they can't stop you from doing it. So the question is, can you, and as an independent contractor, you have the right to structure your contract however you want. That's the independent part. If you don't want WWE to maneuver into your YouTube or to your OnlyFans or whatever, if you have enough leverage and enough stroke, you can handle that. Most of the time, the issue comes out with the talent not having the stroke or the leverage to be able to escape that sort of scenario. And instead, they end up getting stuck with some kind of BS clauses that really aren't necessary for the contract. Awkward that we're talking about this still But it's becoming a bigger deal in, modern culture about corporate control over the individual, and people wanting to have multiple income streams and, that sort of thing. So it'll eventually become a reckoning with WWE where they're going to have to probably start letting women do OnlyFans, especially if the money that they can make exceeds their salary in WWE. Ultimately, they're going to get to a point where either they're going to have to start paying these women a lot more money, or they're going to have to start opening up and paying them less because they're not going to have exclusive rights to their name, image, and likeness, which is probably going to end up being where they're going to land on this thing. It's probably going to have to start paying some women less money overall, and then telling them to make up that money by doing OnlyFans. But see, if they do something like that, that's the similar to, Walmart wanting to pay you $9 an hour, then telling you to go get on welfare. So what you're going to have is you're going to get it from both ways. If you don't pay the women the same amount as the men, and you say, well, you don't want exclusivity, so you want to go do fan time, OnlyFans, whatever. So instead of paying you, I don't know what let's make up a number, $700,000 a year, we're only going to pay you $300,000 a year. And then it starts coming out that, certain women don't make nearly as much money. And then people are going to start, acting a fool about that, yelling about that. And then WWE's going to have to explain, look, certain talents are exclusive, those would be most of the male talent at that point. And a handful of the female talent, especially the younger ones, they're going to be able to go online and make a grip on OnlyFans and fan time and stuff like that, where they're going to have a higher ceiling. Because your ceiling in wrestling is lower because you don't either A, have the talent, B, have the push, or C, have the name. So in order to become Charlotte or Becky or somebody like that, that takes time. It takes investment. If you're fresh out of the PC or something like that, all you got is your boobs and, simps, patting clapping like seals, wanting you to, show some skin. And there's a lot of money in that. I'm telling you, Nikita Lyons could probably make far more money on OnlyFans than she makes in NXT. I can tell you that much right now. Okay, she probably could kill. But it's going to eventually, they're going to have to eventually come to a head with this. The technology isn't necessarily quote unquote new, but it does take companies a long time to get over it. But WWE's way of doing things is if you're not exclusive, typically you don't get paid as much, and they use you less. They will prioritize people who they have under exclusive deals. So, unless you're Brock Lesnar, But it'll eventually get that way because, the men are going to want sponsorships. The women are going to want to do OnlyFans. CM Punk had this situation with the sponsorships. Brock Lesnar got to have a sponsorship, but nobody else does. We know Macho Man Randy Savage had a sponsorship. That caused a big rift when he left. Then the sponsorship left too, which is why guys can't have sponsorships. Like, it's amazing that people don't think about this stuff. That it seems very punitive and it seems very over the top. But there's usually one big glaring example why the companies don't allow things. Like why UFC doesn't allow, personal sponsorships. Because of Brock Lesnar. Right, Brock Lesnar went into UFC and he had this big Bud Light doesn't pay me shit, so I don't care about Bud Light. And then Dana White had to pull him into the office and verbally dress him down like, you're screwing with our money, you're messing around with our business, what are you doing? And so now the boys can't have sponsorships anymore, and it's screwed up. Yeah, it's unfair, but it doesn't take that many people to screw things up. When Randy Savage did the thing with Slim Jim, where he brought that sponsorship of Slim Jim to WWE, and it was actually at a time when WWE actually needed some money. And then when he left, the Slim Jim sponsorship left with him. So that cost Vince a lot of money. That cost the company a lot of money. So now Vince is like, no more sponsorships. Forget it. You got to be at a certain level to even get there. And CM Punk was like, hey, I want to have sponsors. I want to be able to put like somebody's name on my gear or something like that. That's extra money in my pocket. And WWE's like, nope, not going to do it. have to understand it from the talent side. You have to understand it from the company side. From the company side, they have their own sponsors. You know, if they want to be sponsored by McDonald's and you want to have Burger King on your tights, you can't do that. You know, if they're sponsored by Coke and you want to put Pepsi on the back of your jacket, you know, like that doesn't work. You know, because they're being paid a lot more money for the bigger platform. So that's why the sponsorship idea doesn't really work. And because talent may have certain attitudes about certain sponsors and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff that can go into it that, you know, people don't consider when they think about things like sponsorships or third-party platforms, how people choose to use the name, image, or likeness to make money in ways that, you know, other people might find to be disturbing or upsetting or something like that. So those things should be taken into account. But the women, you know, with the OnlyFans stuff, it's eventually going to come to the head. And they're going to have to come up with some kind of policy on it. Right now, I think the policy is you can do it. Just, you know, there's a limit to it. And Mandy obviously, you know, crossed that line because they knew she had it. They knew she had it for a while before they got rid of it. But maybe that was the issue. Maybe her having it altogether was an issue. We don't know yet. Until somebody comes out and makes a statement from WWE's end, we won't know. But since she's an independent contractor, they really don't have to give her too much of a reason why they released her. Kind of screwed up, but you know, you're not a unionized worker, so you can be fired for pretty much any reason anyway. Which is, you know, strictly business. I talked way too much about that. I am so sorry. I spent almost 22 minutes on that. All right, so now let's finally get into NXT. NXT opens with Grayson Waller starting a fight at the PC with Braun Breaker. This dropped in the middle of the day. Some unknown young lady was live streaming on Instagram when a fight broke out at the PC. And everybody thought it was real at first, which was great because the footage is there and there's guys yelling at each other and everybody's like, what's going on? What the hell? Somebody threw a water bottle. And when we figured out, once people started noticing it was Grayson Waller arguing with Braun Breaker, then we knew that it was a storyline. But it was very well done at first because it was a PC talent nobody really knows. And she was, you know, just doing TikTok stuff or Instagram stuff or whatever. And it's just brouhaha starts happening behind her. And she's, you know, recording it and turning around looking like, what's going on? So it was pretty well done. But then, of course, now we realized it was all 100% angle. At this point, Grayson Waller is... he talks about going to the PC. He don't need to train. So he's just going to go there to bother Braun Breaker. So he went into the PC with the malicious intent to start a fight, which he did. Later in the show, Grayson Waller went to the ring, claimed to have Braun Breaker shaken in fear, said that he was tougher and smarter than Braun Breaker. He was wearing the white coat again, said that it wasn't a metal plate underneath this time. This time, it was the NXT Championship, called himself the uncrowned champ. Braun Breaker marched through people in the locker room to get to the outside, well, into the ringside area, where he immediately tackled Grayson Waller, and then, you know, the breakup started. You know, everybody started grabbing him, taking him apart. Grayson Waller sort of continued to jaw jack with Braun Breaker, and Breaker got madder and madder, and then eventually he got free. He tried to tackle Grayson Waller, spear him, and ended up going through the barricade. So he laid there like a lump of bird-ish, you know, and it was pretty funny. It was pretty bad. You know, so the crowd starts chanting viral moments, which, you know, I don't know about that for a chant. I don't like that chant. You know, we got enough problems in wrestling. We don't need guys chanting for viral moments. We don't need that. Please stop doing that. Don't do that. They're telling the story that Grayson Waller is infinitely more annoying than anybody is prepared for. And Braun Breaker's weakness is he don't have no patience for Grayson Waller. He just doesn't have no patience for it. And Grayson Waller is able to outsmart him because of his bull-like temperament. So I like this. I thought this was very effective. This was pretty good. Grayson Waller starting and stuff. Either verbally or the physical altercations where he's throwing water bottles and yelling and all kinds of stuff. That was fun. All right. Tiffany Stratton defeated Indy Hartwell with a triple jump moonsault, which, let me tell you, that joint ripped. Tiffany Stratton is much better than she has any right to be. And I think the girl's good. Okay. What's her ceiling? I don't know. They're really pushing her. They're not pushing her as hard as they probably should, but you can see that the rocket is coming. It's coming. Once she starts, the character gets together, because she got the music together, the look. She's got to find the right voice, and she's going to go, off to the races. She's going to be very good. But a triple jump moonsault, the Christopher Daniels moonsault, tremendous. Indy Hartwell loses again. Good. Who cares about Indy Hartwell? Moving on. JC Jane says that it wasn't a mistake that she kicked Gigi Dolan last week, that she had an awakening, that she's been carrying Gigi since the beginning, and that she will not allow Gigi to anchor her anymore. Later, Gigi cuts the best promo she ever cut, by saying that she was surprised, but she's not shocked about JC turning her back to her, because JC is a bad person. And she then, with Mackenzie microphone holder Mitchell, she says, "What am I holding?" He's like, "It's a flower." And then she says, "What are these things on the flower?" And it was the thorns. And she said that, "Oh, yeah, the thorns, they can hurt you if you're distracted by the petals, but they're not hiding." And says she has nothing to hide. And tonight she's going to give JC Jane a piece of her mind. And I was like, okay. So they did a championship summit in which the three of them sat around a table with Booker T. And, of course, Booker T introduced his girl, Roxanne Perez. And then for the next 4 or 5 minutes, Gigi and JC just yelled at each other. I mean, they yelled stuff at one another that was actually pretty damn good. JC said that Gigi, without her, is nothing but a YouTube celebrity, somebody who, an indie star. Gigi said that JC is insecure and that she's perpetually nervous and she pukes in buckets before her matches. Roxanne, of course, said she would like some popcorn, and she wanted to watch how these two made each other miserable because Karma is a toxic biatch. Then they continued to argue between JC and Gigi about everything. And this was the first time I actually felt like Gigi was speaking with her real voice. Like, this felt like Gigi talking. And JC's always at least okay on the microphone. But this felt like Gigi was finally breaking through. The promos she had tonight were legit. And of course, it ended up being a ruse, and Toxic Attraction jumped Roxanne Perez and powerbombed her through a table. Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles wouldn't have missed that one. You could have just explained it to anybody and they would have got it. But it was fine for what it was, I guess. I think that it's probably going to be a thing where they're going to work themselves into a shoot where it's going to be, you said mean things about me. Did you really mean it? You said mean things about me. Did you really mean it? And that's where we're kind of going to go from there as a way of, Toxic Attraction working themselves into a shoot. So that ought to be fine. But I still don't like the idea of a triple threat match. And I think that my idea of Gigi being the solo star, I think that actually should have come to pass. Because the only thing she was really missing was for her promos to really click and get together. But now she finally found her own voice, so that might help. But it could be temporary too, we don't know. All right, so they did a Thea Hale victory celebration where she got an award for her first win. This was interrupted by JD McDonough, who says that this was a participation award because they're all losers and they lose all the time. So no wonder they're giving awards for one win, because the students of Chase University never win. Then Andre Chase starts talking about how much he loves the school, how much everybody loves the school. But he didn't mention Duke Hudson. So, of course, JD McDonough was like, but does Duke Hudson love the school? You left him out. And Duke was like, oh, rah, 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 rah. So they decided to have a match. It was JD McDonough and Andre Chase. McDonough wins as Duke Hudson walked off, which Vic Joseph called, quote, miscommunication. Miscommunication, my ass. He walked off on him. But Duke made it up as he returned later and said that he walked off because he went to go to HBK's office. They wanted to be in the tag team invitational that the New Day is setting up. And they ended up getting invited to the match. So New Day forced Gallus to go through a gauntlet in order to get a title match. They then forced, Pretty Deadly had to go through a gauntlet. They lost. They still managed to get in even after they lost. Gallus actually won the gauntlet, and now they're in. And now they're doing another thing to get another team in this thing. And apparently this of course, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but this spins out of New Day being backstage singing Randy Orton's old theme song, Burning Inside My Light, which this in the picture of New Day, they're behind cardboard cutouts and their faces are bananas in pajamas and they're hanging out with Big E. And I just say, like, this is why Booker T doesn't like these guys. Like, stuff like this, them guys singing like Randy Orton, Burning My Light by themselves in the locker room, just being dorks. These guys being bananas in pajamas on Twitter. You can call it Black Boy Joy or whatever you want to call it. But Booker T spent some time in prison, and he's looking at that and he's like, man, what the hell is wrong with these boys? He probably got the Hank Hill attitude about this thing, like these boys ain't right. It just ain't right. Anyway, Idris, Enofe, and Malik Blade wandered in. Apparently they're good buddies of the New Day. They were very impressed. So New Day decided to have an invitational in which Schism, Malik Blade, and Idris Enofe, and now Chase University are going to be a part of it. Okay, fine, whatever you say, man. These tag team titles are very weird. Very, very weird. Speaking of tag team titles being weird, Kiana James is ready for her tag team match. She wants to go over the game plan. Fallon Henley is not really agreeable to this. She wants to, whatever they came up with at first, she wants to stick with it. So Kiana James backs down. The fact she's a type A personality, which, she pushes other people around because she likes Jensen or Brooks Jensen or whatever. She's gonna be nice to Fallon Henley and let Fallon Henley do whatever she wants. So Fallon Henley is the one making the decisions. She's tagging in and tagging out. She's doing that kind of stuff. Their opponents are Ivy Nile and Tatum Paxley. Clearly the question is who is supposed to be the heel team. They're both babyface teams, whatever. Fallon Henley and Kiana James actually win, and Ivy Nile got beat again. I'm not a fan of that. But they won because Kiana James insisted on cheating, which she did. So Kiana James is cheating. Fallon Henley, she took it. It didn't bother her too much that her tag team partner was cheating. She won, which doesn't matter. And something that will definitely be coming up later about cheating. So later on in the show, Fallon Henley is very happy that she won. She's excited. Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs are proud of her, and Jensen got so excited he ran to Shawn Michaels' office and said, I got you guys a tag team title match. To which they were like, Fallon Henley was like, what are you talking about? This was supposed to be a one-time thing, and now you're talking about us being a regular tag team. He's like, oh yeah, I was so proud of you guys and how you guys work together. This ought to be great. So Fallon Henley threw a fit for a championship match? Yes, that's exactly what happened. And she said that she would think about it. So she was going to come back and think about it. She was going to consider whether she wanted a title shot or not. I mean, come on. Come on, man. Anyway, the main event of the show was Alba Fire was supposed to fight KC Squared, which would be Caden Carter and KC Catanzaro. I'm sorry, Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. It's still KC Square, but you know, Catanzaro changed her name a long time ago. I was watching the Women's Royal Rumble, like from 2019, and now her name is Casey Catanzaro in my head again. So sorry. And right before the match started, Sol Ruka came out to join Alba Fire as her partner. Sol Ruka did an excellent springboard splash in this match. I mean, it was a thing of absolute gorgeousness. Man, that girl's, there's some athletic chicks on this roster. Sol Ruka is something else. But of course, she loses again because she's Sol Ruka. And you thought we was going to try to make a star out of Sol Ruka. Ha, ha, ha. Had you fooled. So Kaden Carter and Katana Chance win. Alba Fire is frustrated. She leaves Sol Ruka in the ring by herself. Isla Dawn is just hanging around. Alba Fire is so distraught she didn't even notice that Isla Dawn was standing there, and Isla Dawn starts to follow Alba Fire around. Apparently, they decided to swerve me because I thought Isla Dawn was going to be her partner, but they decided to swerve me. So they're still going to put them together, apparently. Okay, sure. After the match, KC Square were in the ring when Fallon Henley said that she accepts the match. So they will be having a tag team title match at Vengeance Day. It's going to be the thrown together tag team of Fallon Henley and Kiana James versus Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. Who cares? Nobody likes this. I like Kiana James, though. She's very good. Fallon Henley is okay. She's very cute. I don't know. The KC Squared, though, very small, gorgeous tag team. Just weird position. Weird position on the card where you kind of have to ask the question whether we actually care about them, which, you know, we don't. Not really, anyway. Okay, so Apollo Crews is hanging out in the barbershop, apparently to get his beard lined up, because that's about the only thing he can do. Either that or get his brain polished. So Trick and Mello, they walk in and Apollo Crews is there. They start having a war of words. Mello says that Apollo Crews is the past, that he's a younger, stronger, faster, better version of Apollo Crews from 5 years ago. And which was like, damn. Because Apollo Crews said that he sees a lot of himself in Carmelo Hayes, and they're the same. The end all be all of this thing is that Apollo Crews challenged Carmelo Hayes to a 2 out of 3 falls match at Vengeance Day, to which, of course, Carmelo accepted. I'm okay with this. This is nice. I think they probably should have gone full Iron Man, but 2 out of 3 falls is very good too. I like this. This match works. Now the tag team fatal 4-way match, no, don't like that. Don't like that tall. We can get rid of that. We can put that on TV. But the 2 out of 3 falls, Mello and Apollo Crews, yeah, that's money. I like that. All right, the 4th match was Drew Gulak and Hank Walker versus the Creed brothers. So Ivy Nile, before she managed to lose her match, she brought in Drew Gulak to help train the Creed brothers to return the Eye of the Tiger to the Creed brothers. To which the Creed brothers are out wrestling the students of Drew Gulak. He's beginning quite frustrated with this. So he decides he's going to wrestle Julius Creed himself. This is an amateur wrestling match, backstage. Gulak can't really outwork Julius, so he gets frustrated, shoves him, and had to be restrained by his students. We already got one frustrated, angry teacher on this roster. I guess now we've got 2. I guess we've got 2 now. So this led to Gulak and Hank Walker versus the Creed brothers. Charlie Dempsey. I just wrote down Dempsey. I wish it was Jack Dempsey. Either a zombie version of Jack Dempsey or the actual stand-up fighter Jack Dempsey. Anyway, Charlie Dempsey distracts Drew Gulak, who left Hank Walker high and dry. So when Hank was trying to tag out, Gulak was already gone. The Creed brothers ended up winning. Drew Gulak was frustrated with Hank Walker, but even though it was his own fault, all is well with the world. I don't hate the idea of Gulak working with the Creed brothers. I think that introducing him as sort of the new boss of Diamond Mine would have been pretty good, because he comes from that same background that these guys come from. He's got some of that same grit and determination to his character. Like, this works. You know, when he was the coach for Bryan Danielson, that worked. You know, it works if you put Drew Gulak in a coach position. He's not a comedy act. Well, he can be, because we know that Drew Gulak can be funny. He's been in WWE for a long time. You don't get to be there for a long time if you're not entertaining. So he could play the funny, dopey heel. We've seen that. But he could also play the serious wrestler guy. You know, the coach. He would have been perfect for the Creed brothers, especially since they're going to go against Induced Share. So the Creed brothers, after they defeat Drew Gulak and Hank Walker, they get on the microphone where Julius says that he admits to being stubborn and hard-headed and all this kinds of things, but that's the stuff that got him where he is. It allows him to be the best version of himself. Both him and his brother thanked Ivy Nile for sticking with them and inspiring them and staying with them the whole time, which, you know, was a great moment, despite the fact that it felt disingenuous, like they were going to clothesline her and throw her through the barbershop window. It seemed like, okay, well, I guess they really mean it. I guess they mean it. Plus, they don't get a chance to do too much of anything, as Induced Share and Jinder Mahal come out and said that they're tired of trying to earn respect. Now they're going to take it, and then next week they want to fight the Creed brothers finally, because everybody's going to be 100%. So Ivy Nile, who has been saying for the longest that the Creed brothers should not fight Induced Share, finally says that the boys should take the fight, and she accepts on their behalf. So this is fine. I'm thinking, how are you going to even up the score? Because there's 3 members of Induced Share. Well, there's Induced Share and Jinder Mahal. So Jinder Mahal is obviously going to be involved. So that's why I say, like, you know, maybe Drew Gulak would have been a nice little addition to Diamond Mine, because, you know, unless Jinder Mahal about to start taking bumps for Ivy Nile, it's going to be 3-on-2 in perpetuity. They got to add another member eventually, at least to do the 6-man tag thing, which is inevitable, right? Okay. Jinder Mahal, I'm guessing he's there to cut promos for Induced Share, because they both have very heavy accents. Like, Veer can talk. Like, Veer it's not a problem. Sangha, oh my goodness. Sanga's, not a good promo. Not really. But it's not his fault. I mean, shit, he's a foreigner. What can you do? All right. So Elektra Lopez defeated Wendy Chu. Wendy Chu's falling down the ladder. Great. The storyline between Elektra Lopez and Valentina Feroz continues, as she wants Valentina to stand ringside with her to watch how her method works. So Valentina watches Elektra Lopez fight dirty and win. Afterwards, Valentina is just too pure. She's a saint. She can't see herself playing dirty, because, you know, they're friends, and she has friends out here and all this stuff. And so Elektra says, look, you keep your friends and I'll just keep winning. And does Valentina want to win that badly that she's willing to cheat? You know, we'll see next time, because they didn't dedicate any more time to it. But I don't mind this. You know, this is actually pretty good. You know, this is the slow but sure poisoning of Valentina Feroz, especially considering she doesn't have anybody else. Like, her tag team partner is injured, and Sangha turned heel. So she's not aligned with anybody right now. She can be a heel. She can turn heel. You know, there's no money in her and Elektra Lopez fighting each other. Nobody knows who Valentina Feroz is, and she has 100% babyface energy. So she definitely could use a heel turn. She's been around for a little while, and maybe together, her and Elektra can do something. That might be fun. All right, so Tony D'Angelo is hanging out with Stacks. They're in a private restaurant or whatever that Stacks set up. Private room in a restaurant, rather. Tony D'Angelo wants to know what Stacks' first step as the underboss. Stacks says he's going to go after the biggest, baddest guy he can find. They didn't specify who the biggest, baddest guy is, but I'm thinking Von Wagner. That's what I'm thinking, and I don't like that. Stacks versus Von Wagner, I don't know if I got the stomach for that, bro. I'm telling you, something wrong with Von Wagner. He's a weird-looking guy. He looks like a Stonehenge statue in the face. I don't get it. Speaking of I don't get it, Stevie Turner refuses to do her promo in person. Instead, she decides to do a live stream where she's going to read super chats off of Twitter, because Twitter apparently has super chats. It does not. But at least I don't think so. It might. Shit. You can tip on Twitter. Yeah, you can do that. Anyway, Stevie Turner is reading super chats and said that her debut will be next week. Okay. They didn't pick an opponent for her. There was no hint at an opponent or anything. But they're not going to drag out the Stevie Turner thing too much longer. There's something up with these UK folks, man. Because Stevie Turner talks like her teeth are too big. And it's the same thing going on with Gallus right now. Like, Gallus needs subtitles. All right? They were playing pool, and the only thing I wrote down was Gallus boys on top, and they were playing pool. Because I didn't understand anything else that they said. This shit might as well have been in Greek. I don't understand any of it. Oof. It was like, did you guys see that movie Snatch? What Brad Pitt was playing the piker in Snatch, and it was just all nonsense. You know, that's kind of how Gallus speaks. It's just 100% nonsense. And this is American television. So we're sitting here like, I know English is their language, but for Christ's sake, what flavor of English is this? I'm just like, this is awful. I can't understand anything these boys saying. You know, this is really unfortunate. God dang, brother. like for me not to be able to understand anything, it's like, yikes, that shit like an Oscar promo. Anyway, Cora Jade had a promo about Lyra Valkyria. She was freaking out about Lyra leaving a feather in her locker. But she called Lyra a bird brain, said that she was better than her. Cora Jade is starting to wake up a little bit. She's pretty good. She's got the mean girl thing down. I would like for her to have something a little bit more individual, but at least she's leaning in the right direction in terms of character and stuff. And now Nikita Lyons. Nikita Lyons. Yeah, let's talk about her first, because we'll talk about something else last. So randomly, during Cora Jade's promo, Nikita Lyons was attacked in the parking lot, and she's crying and holding her shin. And I'm just like, oh, okie dokie. She's laying around in the parking lot. Look, the dreaded NXT parking lot led everybody into a false sense of security, thinking it was the nicest place on earth. And then out of nowhere, bang! Everybody's favorite women's wrestler is on the ground crying. The tears soaking into the parking lot concrete, strengthening the legend of the NXT parking lot. The Bone Collector, which is the NXT parking lot. The Graveyard of Careers, which is the NXT parking lot. She was crying and all weepy and stuff. We don't know what happened to her. Guessing it was Zoe Stark. That's just a guess, though. While we're talking about Nikita Lyons, it should be noted Nikita Lyons wrestled some young lady named Jakara Jackson on NXT Level Up. And the crowd was chanting, "Thank you, Jesus," at these two fine chicks in this match. Look, Jakara Jackson, I saw pictures of her. I had to see her in motion. So when I saw the clips of, just her and Nikita Lyons just doing basic wrestling stuff, I went and watched the match. It's the first match on Level Up from last week. I don't know what the date was. I think it'll be the 20th. But it had a pretty basic pro wrestling match, which was competent, and it wasn't too bad. A lot of people are saying that Jakara Jackson reminds them of Jade Cargill or Sasha Banks. And I can see it. I see it a little bit. She has star potential. She has bright orange hair though. And somebody's going to eventually have to do something where you can't just have hair color for a gimmick. You know, like everybody's doing the bright orange or the bright green or the bright purple or whatever. Everybody's doing that stuff. So it's going to be hard to stand out when everybody's doing it. But she seems to have something going for her, this Jakara Jackson. I would like to see her on NXT. You know, we see the same people every week, essentially. But Nikita Lyons definitely should be more involved. Nikita Lyons basically just exists to do photo shoots, and she's very good at that. You know, she's very good, you know, in front of a camera. But the match was solid. You know, it was a good way to burn about 5 or 6 minutes. It wasn't that long, and Nikita Lyons, of course, won. Would like to see Jakara Jackson on TV. Poor Nikita Lyons got attacked in the parking lot. I had to, you know, remove the tissues from my office. Anyway, the closing segment, Dijak was confronted by Wesley. Wesley refusing to hand over the NXT North American title and said that it might be a stupid decision, but he been making stupid decisions his whole life, and they made him who he is. And Dijak sat there and listened to this crap instead of, you know, throwing him in the bin, the slammer, the big house. Just throw him all in the county and the who's gal. Throw his ass in. I'm telling you, man, this was probably one of the stronger promos from Wesley, but I just don't like these guys, man. I just got no interest in Dijak or Wesley. I don't think there's been a title match. Well, there's probably been like an All Atlantic title match on AEW or something that I care less about. But there's rarely an occurrence in WWE where, to be quite honest, if this match ended in a draw because everybody got counted out, including the referee, I wouldn't care about Dijak and Wesley. You could put a Hell in a Cell match. You can make it a last man standing match. You could set both of them on fire. It could happen in the middle of Long Island Sound. It could happen in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You could thumbtacks and barbed wire and fire and everything. You could do whatever you like. It's going to be hard to get me to care about these two people. And WWE they're doing as good as they possibly can without somebody being set on fire. But Wesley is just generic, optimistic babyface, and Dijak is the big boss man. And I just look at that and just put my head in my hands and say, why couldn't they just fucking fire these guys, man? Like, there are so many other talented dudes who are not getting an opportunity, not doing anything, and we're rehashing Dijak. And Wesley, I guess it's an opportunity for a guy who, you know, has been in a tag team his entire career. So I wouldn't begrudge them for pushing him. I just think that he needs a more definitive, individualized character and not just be random, optimistic babyface. You know, I don't know. This episode of NXT was notable, but I didn't care about any of the matches. You know, not really anyway. Tiffany Stratton was very good though. So she was and Sol Ruka was very good. Some of the angles were very cool. You know, the Ivy Nile thing with Gulak and Ivy Nile and the Creed brothers. I like that. I like the Apollo Crews segment. I like the Braun Breaker segment. The Toxic Attraction segment was solid. I think they kind of popped that cherry a little too soon, but whatever. So what did you guys think? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.